Alright, what is going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time, welcome. Thanks for stopping in. Just recently picked up this 23 BMW R1250 GSA. As you can see, I have just under 200 miles on it, and I am loving this thing. I came from, actually I still have, a 2019 Harley Davidson Street Glide Special, and I love that bike, but one of these has been on the radar for quite some time now, and what I am discovering is which actually I thought I was a unique person, you know, wanting a street glide and then an adventure bike like this. Turns out that's not a unique situation, and there is a lot of Harley riders that are coming over to BMW, which I had no idea. So the idea of this video is going to be what it's like going from a street glide over to this BMW, or if you're fortunate enough, like myself, and able to keep both. Which, if you can, I highly recommend, because as much as I love this bike, I still love the Street Glide. There is something special about that bike. You know, when I'm with my wife and I'm riding two up, that's the bike I want to be on. But all right, this GSA, and I'm totally shooting this from the hip. I don't have anything written down. I'm just gonna speak my thoughts. Little history about me: I got a lot of off-road experience. You know, I grew up riding motocross and dirt bikes, like probably many of you have. So the off-road experience is there, which definitely helps. I have heard it's a lot easier to be, you know, to transition from dirt to street than it is from street to dirt, which makes total sense. You know, the dirt does weird things, and the street is most of the time predictable. So anyway, I feel completely at home on this bike. I feel like I'm riding a big dirt bike that's got a very sporty motor. It's comfortable, it's upright. I really enjoy having my feet underneath my ass instead of out in front of me. Even when they're just on the floorboards of the Harley, they're out in front of me, so all of your weight is on your ass. I enjoy being high up, being able to see everything. I've done a very small off-road trip on this. I have the street tires on this bike, so I didn't do anything crazy. It was kind of just like a rough dirt road, and all the electronics and fancy everything on this bike made it amazing. I didn't slip or slide once. I wasn't doing anything crazy. I was just cruising around. But this is my first BMW. I've never ridden any of the 1200s. I am blown away by this motor. This motor is so usable. Down low, it pulls like a tractor, nothing crazy, very predictable. And then as you get up, I don't know, if it's maybe 55, 6,500 RPM, like right there, she starts pulling hard, almost like a street bike, which is so cool. Definitely a very unique engine feel. Let's see, let's go into dynamic suspension, because we're going to be hitting a little bit of twisties, which stiffens it up. The road mode is just like a big couch. And we can actually put the bike into dynamic as well. The power will hit a little differently. Yeah, very, very cool. You can also do this little magic button that is that turns off DTC, dynamic traction control, which, if you want to have fun and do things you're not supposed to do, that's the button to hit. It does some pretty cool stuff. I'll show you what I mean. Like that. With DTC turned on, you can't do that. It'll keep the bike from wheeling. But as you can see, I mean, I did use the clutch a little bit there because I was very low RPM. This thing is a little torque monster. No problem bringing that front wheel up, and this thing's like 600 pounds. This is a big bike. and it had absolutely no problem. Can't exactly do that on my Street Glide. Now, I know there's people out there that are stunting them, but not in stock form. At least not without a lot of work. So the electronics on this thing are absolutely wild, right? Like totally different than what Harley Davidson has. As you can see, this where my right index finger is, it's got that mode button. So this bike has like 7 different drive modes for the engine and suspension. And you could have 4 programmed at a time, so you have to go into the menu, and you can only pick 4 and a minimum of 2 to have on this button. It's like rain mode. You have road mode, which it's just most comfort, nice smooth throttle. There's a whole list of all the different settings and everything it does. But then you got dynamic, which is what I'm in right now, which is a little bit more aggressive throttle response. The suspension is stiffer for the twisties. Then you have eco mode, which obviously you don't really need to explain what that is if you're trying to save, you know, fuel. And then you have enduro, which is for off-road, which cuts a lot of the safety features off. And then you have Enduro Pro and Dynamic Pro. And that is Pro is in programmable, which you can kind of adjust some of the safety settings, you know, like the ABS features or traction control, how you want to. So I haven't played around with those yet, but that is super cool. Then over here you have the suspension button. Like you saw before, I was in road mode, but I hit that button over here with my left thumb, and I could leave the motor in the road setting, but switch the suspension to dynamic, so it's stiffen it up if I want to go through the twisties, but don't want to have that aggressive throttle response like that, which is super cool. And same thing, you can play around with that in many different ways. Obviously the exclamation point there with that is turning the traction control off, you know, to turn it into a wheelie monster. I don't know why else you would do it besides, you know, screwing around in the dirt. You have cruise control, which slide that over with my left index finger. That sets it on just like your car, and then I think it's what? Yep, and then you push that down. Boom, now we're set. And then you can push it down to adjust your speed up. See, now it's at 46 miles an hour, 47 miles an hour. You can pull it back to slow it back down. That actually took me a while to figure out. I didn't know that. It's kind of cool. And of course, if you touch your clutch or anything, it'll turn that off. This button over here with my right index finger, you got your heated grips. Super handy. I love having heated grips. In fact, I will be putting those on my Harley sometime soon. Too many days I've been cold, coming home and just having that little extra heat would have been really, really nice. You'll notice, or maybe you don't know, I pulled the mount for the BMW GPS off. This bike was already pre-wired, ready to go for a BMW GPS, and it can work with this right here. I think BMW calls this their Wonder Wheel. This is how you can navigate through your what the heck do they call this thing again? TCL, or I don't know, whatever it's called, the screen there. So you can navigate through your menus with this button and your Wonder Wheel over here with my left hand. But so you could navigate. Oh, what's going on? Did I lose? I don't know what's going on my phone. They lost me. But apparently BMW's GPS is kind of not that good. It's not worth the money just to be able to use this Wonder Wheel. And I live in the Northeast, where 98% of the time we have pretty good service. So my phone works fine, at least for now. And if I decide that I want to add a GPS, I think I'll just go with a Garmin unit. You know, you can use them with gloves, so that is plenty fine. I don't need to use the Wonder Wheel. And I think they're actually cheaper, or around the same price, and it's a much better unit from what I hear. So that just makes more sense. Okay, so So that's just a quick rundown of some of the electronics and everything I figured out. I have yet to do any big mile trips on this thing. If you're familiar with my channel, you know, every now and then I get out on a nice big ride on the Harley, and I love it. And I cannot wait to get on my first trip on this bike. But I am trying to get some miles down to get my first service done. I'm gonna have the dealer do the first service. They said, you know, BMW's kind of a stickler. You don't have to, but they like to see the first service done with them. So I'm just gonna go ahead, let BMW do the first service, which I believe is between 600 and 750 miles, something like that. So right now I'm just trying to get some miles on this bike. It goes in a couple weeks for its first service, and then I'll start planning my trips with this bike. Also, I'm a huge fan of having music. That is one thing that my only gripe, or it just is what it is. The Harley, you got music. I love having music. Love it. That is the biggest thing I miss. So I did have a Sena on my helmet with music in it, of course, because I never use it because I ride my Harley. It died. Luckily, Sena's going to go ahead and warranty it for me because it's just under the 2-year mark. So I'm waiting for that to come back, and then I'll have some music too, which is, I love it. I don't know. Are you guys a fan of having music? I love having music while I ride. Love it. Definitely I noticed too, like I definitely get hit with a lot more winds on this bike than I do the Harley. I got kind of spoiled being behind that big old fairing. Not that it's a bad thing, it's not bad. You know, it does have the adjustable windscreen, which does make a difference. Actually, I should have done that earlier. Definitely makes a difference. Oh, sorry, I got hair in my mouth. It's a little chilly out here. It poured just a little bit before I came out. So yeah, I just did the phone mount. That'll work good for now. I use quad lock. Their mirror mount comes with a 12mm adapter, which works perfectly for this little GPS bar. So I did that, of course, with the extra vibration dampener. That's a must if you don't want to kill your phone. I use quad lock both on the Harley and this bike. I've used it in an older truck that I had. Great products. A little pricey, worth it, in my opinion. Oh, here's something I'm not used to, and it's taken some time to get used to again. This thing revs way more than the Harley does. You know, at 4,000 RPMs, I am screaming on the Harley. It likes to cruise at like 2,500. So I notice myself short shifting a lot, thinking that I'm over revving, and I'm not. I'm nowhere near redlining. This thing's got so much more when it comes to RPMs. But this bike is very nimble. You know, a lot of people look at this motorcycle as a large bike, which it is. But if you're like myself and you're coming from a Harley, this thing feels so light, especially if you're coming from a full dresser, you know, a 900-pound bike. This thing feels incredibly light, incredibly agile, especially if you have that off-road experience, you're used to riding, standing up, stuff like that. You know, obviously if you don't have that, it probably will still feel like a big bike, but of course I haven't done any hardcore off-road yet. I'm excited. I definitely need to get some knobbies. That will happen eventually, hopefully soon. I'm very interested in doing like the BDR rides. Very interested in that. I got a buddy in New Hampshire I've been talking to. I think he's looking at a KTM 890. He seems to be interested in doing that with me, so this is not bad. You can use the crash bars as like highway bars. You know, that's one thing that I like about the Harley, setting a cruise control, throwing your feet out. on the highway pegs, music jamming. There's definitely a cool factor on the Harley. You just feel cool. You might look like an idiot, but you feel cool. You don't have that on this bike. Maybe if I had like all my adventure gear, all the bags hanging, fully suited up, coming off a trail, then I'd feel pretty cool. Road work everywhere. Woo! Let's see. Oh yeah, I got this little button right here too. This little guy, I got some LED extra lights. I don't even know what to, oh geez, I'm doing under the speed limit here. Oh. So yeah, this thing actually rides super good, like no hands, cruise control, cruising along, no problem. Very comfortable, massive fuel tank. This thing is like, what, 8 gallons or something ridiculous like that? I mean, you could go a long way on that. And that's just cool. So you'll see right up where it says 211 miles on my dash, this menu button kind of scroll through some of the stuff. This is another thing that you could set what you want on there. There's like 14 different options. So of course it's got my tire pressures, how many miles I have left in the tank, and then just a gauge. Those were all I really wanted up there, so I did some adjusting. So let's see. Let's switch over to road mode, which, so I switched to road, but it will not actually go in until I release the throttle or cruise control. Now it went in. So now the throttle is going to be a little smoother. Set it at 60. So I've wanted an adventure bike for a long time. And I've always, like, even before I bought my Harley, I kind of had my eye on this bike. I think it's just, personally, I think it's super cool looking. I like the boxer motor. I like the beak in the front. I just, once you get some bags on them, I think they just look cool. Especially with the crash bars on the GSA up higher. Oh, little bunny. I think they look cool. I know they're not everyone's cup of tea. The other option that I was looking at for a long time, even though they are really hard to find, is Yamaha's 10-Ray 700. I did get to test ride one up at Americade, I think last year, or maybe it might have even been the year before that. And you know, that bike is a heck of a lot cheaper than this. You know, heck, I could have bought that bike outright for what I put down on a down payment with this, and yet I still have like 12 grand that I owe on this. Which, hey, I won't complain, only 12 grand left on a 23 GSA, I'll take it. But the 10-Rays were like 10.5, 11 grand, something like that. This is such a first world problem. No cruise control. Like, once you have it, you don't ever want to go back. You know, like, especially if you're doing longer rides. And me personally, I really, like, I'll take it, but I don't really enjoy just aimlessly riding around my house. In fact, I don't even like aimlessly riding. It just, it kind of kills part of it. I'd like to have a destination. I want something in mind. I don't care how I get there, and I like that to be the adventure. You know, switching it up, taking different routes, doing stuff like that. That is cool to me. I like that. However, not having a destination bothers me for some reason. So the Tenere, yes, you could do it. You could absolutely ride that bike around the world. But this thing right here has way more wind protection, way more capability as far as highway riding sport. I mean, this doubles as a sport touring bike. I mean, I know people that have bought these things that never plan to hit the dirt with them. It's that good of a sport touring bike. It really is. You know, again, I live in the Northeast. There is some pretty cool stuff within a couple hours, but I like to go. You know, I like to ride 500, 600, 700 miles away. I like to take weekend trips. Total weekend warrior, I am. But I like it. I really enjoy that. This is a great bike for it. So, if you're fortunate like me, and you're able to keep both, they are completely different motorcycles. Like, you cannot find, you know, almost anything that's you can compare, you know, Road Glide, Street Glide to one of these. They are just such a different motorcycle, such a different feel, everything about them. Motor, feel, the way you sit on the bike, brakes, oh my gosh, the brakes on this BMW, the Brembos. This bike stops way better than the Harley does. Very impressed with the brakes. So yeah, if you can, keep both. If you can't, and you, again, these are all my opinions, just my opinions. If you can, and you want the better, more practical bike that you're probably going to put more miles on, and I say probably, the BMW. It's cheaper. You can ride it anywhere. You know, yes, you can take a Harley down dirt roads. It sucks. It just sucks. You are still very comfortable on this thing. If you're more interested in just cruising the highways or cruising the smooth roads, you know, music blasting, you like doing the rallies, that type of stuff, you know, you're doing dinner dates with your wife, my opinion, Harley's a better bike. At least better suited for that. When it comes to back roads and dirt roads, you will just not beat the comfort of this BMW. The suspension is night and day difference. And I've upgraded the suspension on my Harley. I went with Legends front and rear, and it made a awesome change. I mean, totally changed the handling of that motorcycle. But still, it doesn't even come close to what this bike feels like. Look at that. Didn't even feel it. Right over the soda can. But no, I mean, I've gone off some pretty nasty roads, giant holes. You stand up, ride through it, like you don't even feel it on this bike. This bike is so plush. And anything other than perfect roads, you know it on the Harley. You know it. You know. So that's my 2 cents. I know I'm kind of busy-brained. My brain bounces around all over the stuff. Bounces all over different subjects. I hope you can stick with me. I hope you liked it. I want to hear your comments below, what you think of these bikes. Maybe you're in the same situation as me and you have both, and I missed out a whole bunch of stuff that you think should be mentioned. Put that in there. Maybe you have questions about either bike. Put it in there and I will respond. I look at every comment. I respond to every comment. If you don't believe me, try it. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you on the next one.